But campaign for good governance now they head National Elections Watch. Now we chair National Elections Watch. So we see the elections through and through. And so for let we see the way where the Speaker of Parliament was installed. Now I cut back on parliamentary democracy. And for let we able to see 10 MPs removed from parliament totally undermine what we call the will of the people. Not to the courts they install, representatives for the people. Just for argument's sake. We say the court has issues, some of the way they put forward, for argument's sake. When they bring their issues, then they, and let we say the issues then they been tenable. You take it back to the people for say, this election not been go fine, this election is going to be real. That's what they happen. Now, the courts know they can't install representative on behalf of the people. And you see, one of the fundamental things that will precipitate this country into conflict was injustice, widespread injustice. People not feel. I make a underscore that point where the president said, I would want to breed a nation of happy people. When you get a society where people know their hearts not sweet, you know fine.
So it's all I want to go to President Bio Manifesto. What he say about corruption? He say in go review within the first 100 days the ACC Act for include all forms of public official for the publication of all asset declaration forms of all public official before the take office and upon leaving office. That's not a promise where the president making a manifesto, and we'll not see that be done. He say it go make including assets, it go make them public. And we also see we are in the president talk about popularizing and enforcing a comprehensive code of conduct for public officials to regulate their conduct whilst in public office. We've not seen that. So for me, I will also say the fight against corruption is outward, it's not inward. I listened to the former American ambassador here on 98.1. We talk say the fight against corruption and therefore take her inwardly. We don't see a situation wherein we don't report the ACC commissioner has become defender instead of investigator.
If you look at how far we don't go, right, in terms of the democratic space, people then write for express their views and say the things then we don't want for say. President Bio now one person from 2005 where he entered into politics and beginning aspirations up until the time where he became president in April of 2018. It is on record as the most criticized, the most vilified, the most talked about presidential candidate. But somehow he understands within governance, right, and development process supposed to look like. And that, as president of the Republic of Sierra Leone, they not necessarily need to agree with every views. Everybody not necessarily need to agree with them. Right? But that people then supposed to get them fundamental rights, then they are able criticize and critique, which they do, how they do they don't necessarily have to agree. That is the democracy we've all been the yearn for in 1996.
They will begin look inside President Bio in 3 years now office, and some of the issues that we'll go look at today, it gets for do with different sector them where the president after about 3 years done the work closely around. And today in the program we'll look at corruption, good governance, and education. Well, at the studio for can help we look at the issues there so and assess how President Bio in government done the work. Now then 3 areas there. At the studio, I want to welcome a good governance campaigner, where Marcella Samba say, the executive director for Campaign for Good Governance. Good morning, Ma, and welcome to the program. Good morning, Salon.
Good morning, Khadija, and good morning, Sierra Leone.
And also, we get somebody from the Strategic Communications Unit, where they under the Ministry of Information and Communications, when they're in the government spokesman office. Imran Sila, they will be in the studio. Good morning, Imran, and welcome to the program.
Thank you for the opportunity. Family on a morning.
All right, so now continue for the program. Good morning, Salon. We'll join us shortly.
Yes, subscribe. You always dey watch we program them, but you not subscribe yet to the channel. All wetin you get for do, press this red subscribe button, and then you come over here and press this bell. To the bell option, press this one with all. And done. And no get for cost you anything. When you do this, na sign for show say you dey support we for make we do more. Thank you for we don help we for share this program. Yeah, God bless you.
The program you're listening to on a Good Morning Salon, and as we tell on earlier on inside the program today, we'll assess the 3 years where this present administration now taken office. And for this particular edition of the program Good Morning Salon, we'll focus on good governance, corruption, and education. And for talk on that particular issue then they on the different sector them. Once again, I introduce Marcela Samba Sese, Executive Director for Campaign for Good Governance. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning and thank you for having me.
Imran Silawi na one of the members there na the Strategic Communication Unit na the Ministry of Information and Communication. Good morning once more and welcome to the program.
Plenty, thank you for the opportunity.
We also get Thomas Dixon, we na editor. We also get for the part of this discussion. As we know, inside 2018, the country will get the final result of the election. Also, we will get presidential and other elections. And at the end of the day, the Sierra Leone People's Party will come out as the winner for this particular election. From that time day to now, this particular administration don't take 3 years in governance. And during the term where President Biodem this we are in, or during time for campaign, they may make different promises them. And after they take office, they may come out with a manifesto where state different things what they go do for improve the country and also for improve the life of people. The issue about good governance, corruption, and education are the key thing that will the president be used for campaign and they make promise to the public for say where he take up office, it will improve on the different sector they are so. Well, from that time to now, inside 3 years, we they don't do in a governance, when are the improvement we don't take place on good governance, corruption, and education. We go can discuss with we studio guests them. We go can assess the president in 3 years on their particular issue here. Although other area them they also will be emphasized on say then go try for improve on and give quality to. And for start this particular discussion, I bring in Marcela Samba Sise where we know say now one post we done there before on issue them we get for do it good governance. Madam Sise, where you look at the issue about good governance, you don't always did before. You know one post you don't the advocate and also you always ready for talk about them. We get for good governance and for the government in attention on side the way did it go wrong. For 3 years now in governance, let we start. For 3 years now of the Sierra Leone People's Party, let we start with your genuine assessment for those 3 years, which you will say so far of this particular administration on improving on good governance.
Thank you very much. And I want for reframe right at the start to say it's not 3 years of SLPP, it's 3 years of BU regime in Sierra Leone, it's government of Sierra Leone. You know, so let me just lay the premise very, very clearly at the start. And Fambulen, today not to the usual discussion. The usual discussion the way we can get. Today that one of the discussion them we even as we they say 3 years, you know, of the BU regime, it's like 30 years since the first gun shots will be here and Abomawukaila on this state. It's 60 years of self-rule. So we not just talk about 3 years of the regime. We just situate within very remarkable things that will not happen at this country where they point to democratic good governance and peace consolidation. And so I want to premise this discussion from exactly what in His Excellency the President promised me inside the New Direction Manifesto when citizens then vote for can't take power in 2018. He said, I am again offering the nation hope and a new promise. The Sierra Leone will be better for all under my leadership. I promise a new direction for Sierra Leone as a united, peaceful, progressive, dynamic, confident, enterprising, and happy nation where the people have unlimited access to job, food, education, and health services, and where there is equal justice and equal opportunity for all. We must transform Sierra Leone into a middle-income country of the 21st century. Now, that's how the premise, go lay. And in fact, in terms of accountability institution, this is not the basis of any accountability pact lay. This was the standard, the president set. And so now we look at 3 years in office. And probably I will start off by looking at 3 critical highs, and also I look at, the performance in terms of really where we go low. And the side the way we go low, I go highlight them as well. First and foremost, I want to mention that the democratic and media community, then we really applaud the repeal, of Part 5 of the criminal libel law. I mean, I think say that thing it really more than 50 years in existence. That was a critical high for democracy and freedom of speech and the right, to information. Although somebody could just hold me sleeve and draw me back, say take 10 toko, because the threat of the cyber, crime act, hang over that thing. But I think say it's an issue we would have to say yes, it was very, very commendable. And then we went on the top courts. Citizens' participation, and we don't interrogate the question. They say, if at all we talk about citizens' participation, whose sector of the population do we know they participate actively? We say women then participation very low, young people then participation very low. And then this in fact will be a critical recommendation from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. And then we see the president in December 2020 launch the GIWI policy. Family and GIWI policy they support gender equality and women's empowerment. Now that's the policy they support. And that policy it get put things them around the socio-economic and political empowerment of women and girls in Sierra Leone. And it created an opportunity for equal access and opportunity for boys and girls, men and women. And I think say from also the citizens' participation point of view, campaign for good governance, we applaud, that stance there very well. And equally so, I want to talk about the third issue. These are 3. I mean, I just say 3 highs that I can bring to the fore. And also, we think, say, the flagship program around, education and this whole idea of access. We can talk about universal access to primary school, which is very, very critical, and it is part of development initiatives in the world over. But more importantly, as I talk with women, there was tremendous support around one of the biggest violations where they happen to women and girls. Sexual and gender-based violence, especially sexual violence. And we see the commitment from the highest level for address the issue. So if we want to talk about the highs in these 3 years, I think say fundamentally we must, say these were critical things for consolidate, harmony in our society, for interact, because women and girls protection was key. A lot of times we don't call for the rights, if we want to do democracy, right to information, right to free speech, and any legislation where they take nanny back, the president and his team don't pull them. I think we applaud that.
All right, now we look at the opening of the conversation we start with. You start for quote His Excellency in speech, in statement, in manifesto, we talk about hope and new promise of a new direction. And they look at good governance, that the area of good governance, and they look at today. And we talk about good governance in any state, inclusion are one key thing. Over the 3 years of President Bio in rule, how you can assess the area of inclusion, bringing everybody on board for let them participate in the affairs of the state.
Okay, so Khadija, you just don't preempt me 3 laws where we lay as the foundation in the cutback. It's called democratic cutback. And some of we were 20 years in democratic good governance campaign, we got the catch call where some of them things they really happen. And first and foremost, then they affect the quality of the democracy. Because not forget to, in 2007, for example, the world over, Sierra Leone was celebrated and said this, in fact, the United Nations called it a very good case for post-conflict reconstruction. Because that time the first time where civilian government hand over peacefully to another civilian government, that was a perfect transition where everybody be looking at admire. And so when in 2018, right, and not say for other term, but campaign for good governance now they head National Elections Watch. Now we chair National Elections Watch. So we see the elections through and through. And so for let we see the way where the Speaker of Parliament was installed. Now I cut back on parliamentary democracy. And for let we able to see 10 MPs removed from Parliament, totally undermine what we call the will of the people. Not to the courts they install, representatives for the people. Just for argument's sake. We say the court has issues, some of the way they put forward, for argument's sake. When they bring their issues, then and let we say the issues then they been tenable. We take it back to the people for say, this election not been go fine, this election is going to be real. That's what they happen. Now, the courts know they can't install representative on behalf of the people. And you see, one of the fundamental things that will precipitate this country into conflict was injustice, widespread injustice. People not feel. I make up underscore that point where the president said, I would want to breed a nation of happy people. When you get a society where people know their hearts not sweet, you not find.
So it's all anything that way you don't remind people and back waiting be don't happen, like the way they install the Speaker of Parliament, removing elected members of Parliament, and some of the things then we talk about injustice. President Biodor in campaign upholding the rule of law. Now one thing we be emphasized on. With the example, yeah, we've been GSAP we take up governance. You think they fall short on that?
So Khadija, this is the foundation. If we just move, like if I lay them 3 premise there yesterday, we can start the discussion out from there. I don't lay the highs, I just lay the low. Where I think say in terms of good governance, and one thing we would do the campaign against bad governance. Can you tell you see something they go wrong in with democratic space, we come up very critically and work with time and say this we don't want for go down their level day. So they talk about the role of the courts. In any society, justice paramount. Because Sabti me and you go forget blabber. It's inevitable. It's almost jam. And so we need forget now the states that the principal arbiter. What they go say, this person will carry and go na the court case will talk fine. And so for example, we watch the election through and through. And if they say, okay, yes, for example, some of the station and violence happen there. How impartiality, rational choice, rational thinking, how violence will happen inside election, na MP no more affect. And that pulse there, now that same pulse there, the happen for president, now that same pulse there happen for local government. How come na MP no more that violence they affect? So you see the society not for run that way there, and we been perceived as a serious democratic cutback. And then this is other issue that Khadija talked about. We had a very, very challenging transition where it all lead to serious division at the state. And you find out, say, and that one day, by extension, that division there don't breed so amount, a high level of what we can call political governance.
So looking...
It's up to you. One, people and they talk thing they were not right. You get people that will not even get comparative advantage for discuss politics. We call the anti-rights groups. Then they take the human rights language, then they turn on the way where they want them, then they get at people them, they introduce tribalism, introduce mamikos, introduce nepotism, so many laws. The language of politics is so, they don't even get the deliberative competence for discuss the issue, yeah? Then they discuss it with all kind of mamikos, and so we find out say it's very difficult. And finally, on the human rights side, when at the third issue, I'm just running through this.
Would they come back to you,
Madam
Madam Sambas? Would they come back to you? Lord, just engage with other studio guests there. And when they come now to Thomas Dixon, a journalist, and the media now the major stakeholder them if we talk about governance. And we get the journalists now so with we for help we talk about how the media self don't they participate in terms of governance, and how they don't they assess and talk about issues them we get for do with President Bill in 3 years now office. Good morning one more time, Thomas Dixon, and welcome again to the program. Good morning, Salon.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you very much.
3 years of the president in governance from 2018, just after the general elections, we will still say His Excellency the President, Dr. Julius Maada Bio, be emerged as the winner, who go through the transition period and it starts for work for the people of Sierra Leone. From a media practitioner perspective, how you can assess the president in 3 years in governance?
Thank you very much. My assessment of the president in 3 years in governance, they be based on 2 government documents. The political party document, that is the SLPP People's Manifesto of 2018, and then the president a maiden speech in Parliament, in which it translates within the manifesto and that speech become a government policy because it deliver in our Parliament. And on the issue of governance, I think we the media therefore monitor the social contract, and the social contract between government and the people and the manifesto will later don't translated into a development document. How government they implement them. What in government say then they do, what they not do. What in government say what then they do, what they don't do. On the area of governance, I think as Marcella rightly said, there are things that we government actually don't try for do, like for media. You look at the removal of the 1965 Public Order Act 35. I think that's a big plus, not only for government but all of us as Sierra Leoneans. Although we already talk that we they blow small because of sections now the cyber law, we also go tend for resurrect that part 5 the way we don't die. And but besides that, there are other governance promises where the president will make, like the issue of executive orders. Supreme executive in the manifesto, he said supreme executive powers are dangerous for democracy. But over the years, we don't see not use them, but we don't suicide people and they use orders from above against ordinary citizens, against people who you tend for saying at the opposition. Marcella talked about the laws of the court system and with regards the MPs then. For me, I think say going to court is actually part of the democratic process. Waiting wrong now for let the court institute. You can remove the MP say he was not properly elected, but you cannot institute on behalf of the people another MP. When it happen in your own case, what you go do, you go say, okay, when I go, you go on the election. But it's very, very sad for democracy. And also another thing we mentioned when scanner with democratic conscience and the way we elect a speaker. For the first time in we recent democracy, we still say OSD then go to parliament, bundle out members of parliament, and elect the speaker. Where for me, I think say it's not proper for democracy and for governance architecture.
So looking at the issue you talk about on the 1965 Public Order Act, now removal will just be months back. Look at the space for journalists get a space for able to criticize professionally in this particular administration 3 years in office. You think say they don't give that equal right and opportunity where then tell people and say they will allow a level playing field for let people come on board and draw government attention to them where the media and one platform we can do the thing.
Yeah, I think say people the media, people they talk through the media. Newspapers are critical of government. Radio programs are critical of government. And since they removed Part 5, even before the removal of Part 5, we will not see the arrest of any journalist, or they say them beat journalists yanda or so and so forth. So I think say with the space day for people for critique the government.
Is it that you don't see, or maybe it not happen to you directly, because to get a case of a particular journalist where we see through an interaction for confirm certain things at the end of the day,
that's not been that not being one of the
So
things.
you think that the space was for everybody?
That now one of the things that we I think is very bad. We are in a journalist try for we in a Salu try for call Salu Tijanjalo try for call the chief minister for clarify a simple information. And then we suicide CID officer then go to your office and would wink them direct to CID. And up till now, despite the law remove the part 5, up till now, CID no get phone it.
Okay.
For me, I think say that a downside. But over and above, the space for the media critique government. If you look at the newspapers, you watch television programs, you even listen to 98 points where the suicide people they express their views and be critical of the government.
Thomas Dixon, continue for deal with we inside the program Good Morning Salon. The time from my studio clock now 8 o'clock, and now we go for a break.
Yes, subscribe. You always dey watch we program them, but you not subscribe yet to the channel. All wetin you get for do, press this red subscribe button, and then you come over here and press this bell. To the bell option, press this one with all. E don done. E no get for cost you anything. When you do this, na sign for show say you dey support we for make we do more. Thank you for we don help we for share this program. Yeah, God bless you.
All right, we continue with the program Good Morning Salon, where they come to you from the Society for Radio Democracy 98.1 FM. 2 minutes past the hour, 8 o'clock. Now the time for my studio clock. And in case you just tune in, we already bring the program come to you this Wednesday morning. My name is Khadija Bangora.
And it's up to you, Kalon.
Today na the program, we start for look at President Bio in 3 years now office as president. And we dey look at 3 key sector them today. We get for those good governance, corruption, and education. We don't start for look at good governance and how the media don't they participate for ensure say the government uphold democracy and the rule of law. For talk about the media, we get Thomas Dixon, and in the area of good governance, we get Marcela Sambasisi. Now, we come to Imran Sila. He comes out from the Strategic Communications Unit from the Ministry of Information and Communication. Imran, don't listen to waiting the 2 other studio guests them, their own analysis as to how them things say they're going to assess the president 3 years in governance. As I stated earlier, they look at 3 major issues them. Good governance, education, and corruption. Now 3 major issues them we look at the new direction manifesto His Excellency used for campaign for let the people of Sierra Leone vote for him. It starts for talk about hope and new promise as to you want for lead the country to a new direction. 3 years in governance, so many issues them don't they come up. We talk about upholding them promises there so for lead the people of Sierra Leone to a new direction. Now one way people don't they question. You don't listen to waiting the 2 other guests them don't make. Firstly, now upholding democracy. Transition will be one we been get challenges. 3 years down the line, how you can assess or which you want for reports to the people of Sierra Leone who been vote President Bio in government in terms of developing N3 area there.
Well, I tell you, thank you. I'll just start off by congratulating my friend and brother, Thomas Dixon, for a wedding. I think we're all glad now. For yeah, on a serious note, anyway, look, I think it's been 3 years. 3 years of which we go call consistency. 3 years of President Bio in stewardship in this country on several fronts. Yeah, and I think if you want to talk about good governance, right, and the space for the people and critique and get a dialogue and deepen their conversations, and I not think say that not something where anybody, feel restricted about. His Excellency the President been say something that a clip where don't circulate and something where I don't echo and re-echo several times. He say I know things are hard for my people, so for me I take them literally, but then also figuratively. Yeah, he say, but I was expecting this. He said I didn't promise simplistic solutions. Yeah, I promised a total fix, and that would take time. He said I want to be judged at the end. say, and not the beginning. So, I mean, if you look at how far we don't go, right, in terms of the democratic space, people then write for express their views and say the things then we don't want for say. You know, President Bio, now one person way, I mean, from 2005, where he entered into politics and beginning aspirations, up until the time where he became president in April of 2018. It is on record as the most criticized, the most vilified, the most talked about presidential candidate. But somehow, he understands within governance, right, and development process supposed to look like. And that, I mean, as president of the Republic of Sierra Leone, they not necessarily need to agree with every views. Everybody not necessarily need to agree with them. Right? But that people then supposed to get them fundamental rights then they for able to criticize and critique, you know, which they do, how they do they don't necessarily have to agree. That is the democracy we've all been the yearn for in 1996. And therefore, when you talk about taking away, I mean, part 5 of the criminal libel, I mean, that was conscious and deliberate for make sure, say, no other governments, yeah, including this one, no ever get reason for get recourse to part 5 again for use them against anybody in this country. And we see things them like, I mean, we talk about protecting women them, right, and girls in Sexual Offences Act and all them kind of batin and I mean, then I've also allowed the space for women them and girls them, right? You look at the inclusion of women in government. You know, interestingly enough, one of the challenges then we President Bill been facing, I mean, women them, I mean, generally always like for call for, which you could call 50%, no? So, yeah, but then some actually apprehensive for come forward. So that is something I think, say, I mean, internally, women then also get for try for deal with those issues and want to come forward and accept appointment because a few of them things then they will be happen at the early stage and they're not take. But in terms of percentage as to who side we did, yeah, in terms of women inclusion, right, in government, but also opportunities generally, right, at all levels. Because it's when you talk about the woman, they already get the qualification. You also talk about the next generation below, and also in terms of the opportunities.
So you talk about, when you start, you talk about consistency. In terms of that word they will use, in terms of the good governance, it fall under day, because when you look at the issue about inclusion, transparency, and other one, when at the factor them, we make up of good governance, it clear say from waiting the other speaker they talk about, it lacking. So the consistency fall under waiting exactly.
Well, I'll not be necessarily to go by waiting the other speakers then they talk. Having to go by waiting a mere record and recollection as to how 3 years don't look like under President Bio, just so get on the clear. So we have seen a consistent and deliberate effort, yeah, for create the space in this country. That is consistency. We don't say consistent and deliberate effort for get women them included, right, in the development and democratic space in this country. That is consistency. We don't also see a consistent effort, yeah, for make sure, say, I mean, journalists them not get calls for be arrested again, you know, and all of them kind of batting. That is consistency. So we have seen a lot of consistency, and I think, say, we will continue to see more of that in the next 2 years leading up to an election.
Imran, when you talk to peace experts, they will clearly state say Salon democracy is still fragile. People in the work towards for get rank to Salon democracy.
Absolutely.
And during the term where President Bio be in opposition, we don't they see people them where they serve now in administration, but they come out, they condemn things them. We then be feels as of that time the past administration they do. For example, like the time when the former president been sacked the vice president. That debate they've been very tough. Where we see people and now where they serve now this administration been come out and condemn them. But immediately His Excellency the President take over office. We see the same things them happen. We hear illegal sacking of the ombudsman, illegal sacking of the bank governor, illegal sacking of the ACC commissioner. Then things then they during their own term in opposition, or then be they condemn. Now one way we see it happen during the old regime, immediately then take over office.
Well, you actually, I mean, I understand say people and condemn them, right? But then you also forget a legal eye to understand the interpretations of the Constitution and the powers.
Waiting at the interpretation.
I mean, in terms of the president in constitutional rights as provided for in terms of hiring and firing. You know, I'll just speak more broadly on this issue. One of the things that I think we probably need for maybe get right in terms of we constitution. Now the fact that we need for get which you could call terms set, for appointment. So we're not going to find ourselves in a situation where when government go, those appointed would understand. Because take, for example, in the United States of America, people are appointed in positions, and they know that when a government is leaving the White House, all of them positions then they
even
naturally
though some
go.
of them people
So
are not appointed Imran, but the terms then they will protect the time limit in office.
Well, look, I think the fact of the matter is that, I mean, any government supposed for able for get the freedom, right, for choose people them will believe, right, in vision and aspirations for the country, and therefore supposed for able for make then decisions then they. I mean, we can argue about them all day. Fact of the matter is this. Take, for example, in the case of Francis Benkel-Fala, with the amount of accolades we don't get, right, and the issues will probably be emanate from in Kawan into office. I think, this time, over this period, don't vindicate that gentleman in terms of in desire and in fight and any determination for fight corruption in this country, because he don't get several accolades, several recognitions, locally and internationally. And so it continues to vindicate the fact that he is the anti-corruption commissioner in this country. So, look, I think, overall, we can go back, right, and probably talk about as to how we can fundamentally for the future, deal with the issues. But the fact of the matter is that, then people are qualified for the job them, and then they do them best.
Try for defense, this person in appointments don't vindicate and based on in performance. But this same office again, where you look at the law or the act where the ACC they work with, that act they secure a 5 years tenure of the commissioner. And some of them things that earlier as a state, now some of the things them where President during internal opposition, it may come out clearly and they condemn. Immediately assume office, the things the way it be they condemn, it come up with them back. So the question now is how it on the work for make sure say it do the things them where it promise Salon people them inside the New Direction Manifesto. It promise for give hope to the people of Sierra Leone. But immediately come, the people they see it begin to do the opposite of what it promised them.
But there is hope for the people of this country on several fronts.
How?
I mean, then they are good for admit. So, I mean, we restrict this conversation, right, to certain things that we want to highlight and how they discuss. I mean, more broadly, beyond them points there,
but
we're supposed to discuss.
Good governance, so they discuss.
Absolutely. I did talk about more broadly, beyond them point there. There's a lot for suggest. There's plenty of hope, right, in terms of the direction where this country they go. And we have seen report after report, they indicate some of them in the right. I mean, and that is factual, not to and they will keep forward and call. Now, but look, I think more fundamentally on your specific question, I think if we can sincerely go through a constitutional review, right, and it wasn't stalled, right, in the previous administration, we've been probably for don't go a long way in terms of addressing some of the fundamental problems there. Because for me, I just think, and that is my view, that, look, I think let we give presidents them, right, the latitude for able to appoint the people them, right, we believe in vision and aspiration, right, and let there be those boundaries as to, right, when then they go, those people probably go understand that they do not have right to serve in those positions. So I think for me that I'm
so looking at the issue about where any new regime come, obviously the most carry their own people they believe and feel so competent. But one issue where people only get at the manner and way when they meet certain people that work now from a regime and the way out they pull them. You think this regime don't follow the due process, we go make people no link or relate anybody in sack into politics?
I mean, I absolutely believe, look, there are constitutional provisions, right, for His Excellency the President, any president of this republic, right, for make appointments, right, and also, every president don't utilize that option of the Constitution, and I think
but the manner to which way it happens. So you don't do it the right way.
if we fall, one for probably think about within we will get in terms of a constitution moving forward, then that's a debate I think so we're supposed to get involved in. But there are constitutional provisions quite clearly.
Yes. Imran Sila, na name and in one of the representative them, the Strategic Communication Unit and the Ministry of Information and Communication. Well, quickly inside the program, Good Morning Salon, we'll go for a break.
Yes, subscribe. You always dey watch we program them, but you not subscribe yet to the channel. All wetin you get for do, press this red subscribe button, and then you come over here and press this bell. To the bell option, press this one with all. E don done. E no get for cost you anything. When you do this, na sign for show say you dey support we for make we do more. Thank you for we don help we for share this program. Yeah, God bless you.
All right, we continue with the program. Good Morning Salon, where they come to you from the Society for Radio Democracy 98.1 FM. We they continue with the discussion as today in the program. We they assess President Bio in 3 years in governance, but they look at 3 sector them. So if you want to be part of the conversation, send me message on 077-981-981. Or if they're watching our Facebook page, drop your comment, ask your question, as we will read them later on in the program. We come back to Marcella Sambasise, we are the Executive Director for Campaign for Good Governance. Madam Sise, they talk about the area of good governance and how the president done the work for getting to this particular sector during in 3 years in office. They look at different issues them we get for do with giving strengthening the area of good governance. Division, one way don't they come out strongly say the country divide by tribes, region, and the way how certain set of people they get a job, especially political appointed jobs them. Now one way don't be major concern over the 3 years where people they talk about issues them we get for do with good governance. In that area, the waiting will be your assessment.
Okay, 2 issues we bother around, that if not 3, we want just put on the table very quickly for this discussion. One, I want to talk generally, but the fact that leadership of this country not try for what we can call mobilize the entire social fabric. In any democracy and in any society where you be president, the entire country you run. Like you always wonder, say, how come somebody want to run a country divided? Just from a governance perspective. It's not possible. First and foremost, political party supporters them generally, and they get for voting into office. But when you take up the presidency, you pretend the entire country. And so the first step, because we had a very contested elections in 2018, the very first step and very first challenge, of leadership, and for try as best as possible for pull through the entire country, because you want an entire country. But the unfortunate aspect, and probably this is what I want to speak to, and speak to it very, very strong. The role of the diaspora for deepening this divide is very disappointing. Particularly so. The one that will come, take over responsibility, we see the divisiveness in which they take over the responsibility, then they shape the country too. And probably, when I don't think through this, I say perhaps, because then people here so, no say we don't come out, the same mentalities of the 1990s, they don't know say we don't go through a period of rebirth and regrowth. The language where then they use, divisive language, calling people names were not good, for social cohesion and peace. And so the role of the diaspora, you even see there right now, even not only those in government, but those even out of the country, then they spew hate on social media. It's so divisive. And that one, they know they support leadership at all. Then the leadership now, each and every, you see this divided along opposition line, this divided along ruling party line, and we not see nothing for sure say the country is moving in a unified force. And in such circumstance, wetin dey happen when voices of civil society, critical voices, want to interrogate certain issues, they come on you. Now I make I want for pick on an issue where earlier they on the table, so citizens are expressing their view. Some of us are expressing our views under very challenging circumstances. You go on social media now, you dey see all kind of information about me, things people don't even know. People calling me names and tribe that I don't belong to. It is so wrong. And so the space, there's a shrinking space of citizens' voices, and you get anti-rights group who don't take over the space, and these are fueled by political parties. They're fueled by political parties, and then they spew hate in the space.
So you talk about division, and when you look at the tribal and regional division, back days, you will see most of the entire motor say don't happen for a long time. You think say that expected change for them be in the 3 years of this present regime?
Let me tell you, the policies gets in the states, they're very good. For example, I tell you, one of the things where this government carry for bringing the peace infrastructure is a very positive policy direction. But the implementation, procedural, you see, the government representative in the talk, but when Khadija asked the question about the transition and a removal of people, the way get security of tenure. These are due process. Due process is a fundamental tenet of democracy. These are due process. You know one thing, independent institutions, why they should have security of tenure, they should be able to perform their roles without fear or favor. So it's important that we build consensus. Unfortunately, we are not able to build consensus. The government get very good intentions. I love the idea of bringing through a decentralization policy, but in the final analysis, them puella. I love the idea of a census. Everybody stand up to be counted. Fundamentally, it is procedurally wrong. We have highlighted that long before December 4. Say, you people will not plan for census. So census is not happening in this fashion. Census has to happen in X, Y, and Z manner. And we have not seen any of those things. They say we'll go ahead with December 4 census. Only on the eve they say cancel. Now they still insisted this is building consensus in a democratic society, mobilizing the entire social fabric around the policies and making them implementable.
Madam Sise, when you look at the trends, clearly they show say politics of Tonangi, it in this country, it happen. And it don't they become something like a pattern. Whose effect this gets in good governance?
In fact, now I make a premise this discussion. I say this is not the usual arguments or discussions we will get. I want for less citizens and be reasonable enough. This is not a party argument. This is about, the very essence of what unity, justice, and freedom mean. The very essence of heart and soul as Sierra Leoneans. 30 years after civil war, we no learn. 60 years of self-rule, we no learn. 3 years into the MPO regime, we no learn nothing. This is where I situated the arguments, for see what exactly we want to do. Because governments will come and go. But the very issues we live with us as Sierra Leoneans. Now I make some of when we campaign, we no want for let people they see their issues there as party issues. Because the state of Connaught Hospital, God forbid, anybody in here that are right now, if afraid for let them go admit them. The state of Connaught right now. So it's an issue touching each and every one of our lives. So we don't make those issues.
So when you look at the issue about leaders get a national idea where they not get power yet and where they get the power, you think the idea they change to just themselves within the caliber?
I think so. We get a crop of political class we're not helpful to this country. I have been around the space for 20 years, and so with me presence in a campaign for good governance in national elections, which I can say this. I think we get a political class where then just stay for where leadership kind of power and then well all things.
Well, not in political class then.
The set of people.
Who
where
done
they
them?
bring negative ideologies into the process, just push their own agenda, making sure that this is our own term. Like waiting Khadija talked it for that. I think front up column, the politics of grievance. Somebody want for just take power so that he will turn and gain company. He want use the political space. He want use the entire state paraphernalia, the police, the court, the judicial, everything. He want use them at in your favor because I don't plan the way you see I come at the turn and give this person. And you know, right? I think say citizens, when I say citizens, we all, because one of the things they want to make, I think so will be they recognize the 30th anniversary. You know, the Ahmed Tijani Kaba Foundation began a symposium. And one of the things they were states very clearly, I said this country for come back on track after all waiting don't be. It's the responsibility for you, of you and I, every other person now the state, from the one that we they elect to the one that we they appoint, to traditional leader, to civil society, to media, to ordinary citizen. Everybody gets a role, a fundamental role for play for build the state and bring her back together. This divisive politics is not good for ruling party, it's not good for opposition, it's not good for ordinary citizens. We just to destroy we country.
Continue for the week in the program, Marcella Sambasi. So they come back to you, Thomas Dixon. We don't talk more on good governance. Now let's come to the other area of corruption. Now one way we many people been think say the president during a manifesto promises them he been serious in the area of fighting corruption. Even when he win the election during a maiden speech at the National Stadium, he even go ahead and declare war on corruption. The media now one way I go say now the whistleblower recently on alleged corruption issues them where they happen under President Biori administration. We don't see one new media house where emerged recently where they bring out documents, then they show area them where then they allege say corruption they happen under President Biori administration. In this area, Thomas Dixon, with all the recent publication them from the Africanist press and how huge amount of money, according to waiting and they published on the missing. How you think, say, President Biori administration 3 years don't serious about waiting the president been say they declare war on corruption?
First of all, I think in the area of corruption, we see Usai Sierra Leone as a country. We passed the MCC, and all of us, every one of us, we effort and make we pass the MCC with regards, and we score high marks at the fight against corruption. We don't put we ready for the compact. But I want to go to President Biori Manifesto. What he say about corruption? He say in go review within the first 100 days the ACC Act for include all forms of public official for the publication of all asset declaration forms of all public officials before the take office and upon leaving office. That's not a promise where the president making a manifesto, and will not see that be done. He say it go make including your assets, it go make them public, and we also see we are in the president talk about popularizing and enforcing a comprehensive code of conduct for public officials to regulate their conduct whilst in public office. We've not seen that. So for me, I will also say the fight against corruption is outward, it's not inward. I listened to the former American ambassador here on 98.1, where he talks say the fight against corruption and therefore take her inwardly. We don't see a situation wherein we don't report the ACC commissioner has become defender instead of investigator. He has been defending corruption all over the place. Recently, in an interview in a sister media house, we saw make some aspersion there. Way for me, I think a commissioner.
Thomas, what do you mean by the ACC commissioner defending corruption?
Well, for instance, there is an allegation of the First Lady expending money. Instead of the ACC commissioner focus on what is at hand, it take you back to 16, 15 or 20 years back. So for me, I think say wrong. You don't focus on what happened, and perhaps when you come out with your final investigation, you state say, what would they investigate? Will notice say this not been there, this system not been there, this system not been there. They put it, but you can't come out with a statement to say you investigate First Ladies them. Apart from that, we see the $1 million allegation of the chief minister who colleague made, Saluchi Janjalo, try for cross check. And it was on this program, I was on this program on that morning, where the ACC commissioner called, instead of investigating, defended the chief minister. So for me, I think the ACC for investigation, because we see recently the Rice saga, they investigate, then charge to court. The ACC commissioner said they no go through judge by jury. They say go put ACC case, then go review. We don't know what come out of that review. They not tell me what they no review, what they no review it. So for me, I think the responsibility is on the ACC commissioner for make the anti-corruption truly independent and begin for look at issues of corruption in the system, not just the past government. Because for me, I think we no go want another commission of inquiry. You can't spend boku money, and at the end of the day, another problem can be. So let the ACC be proactive, fight corruption as it is. You talk about the removal. Who said the problem in beginning? I think the way we remove the ACC commissioner not been proper. What happened in the case of the judiciary, wherein the chief justice and the president getting mutual consent for let the chief justice resign. That same situation therefore don't happen in the case of the ACC. A due process for them be followed in the case of the ombudsman. And I want for chipping that not only top people have been sacked, for note that day, even people when are cleaner, even people when are just messenger, they don't sack them in public offices in maritime, NatCom, Statistics Sierra Leone, because of their political views, because of their surname.
So when you look at the trend where they go of different administration, then waiting coming, you just say so mango tell you say I have my own people who I believe we will able to support me agenda. Also you think say really what you really think say missing? Is it that this not something we don't be from previous one them and now on a want ladies present administration make the change where maybe at the end of the day people will see say the possible means not go be that achieved easily?
This is a new direction. A new direction for take we to new ways of doing things. We'll not for go back to
so all lengthy are not for the happen.
All lengthy are not for the happen. We need. This is what the president promised Sierra Leone. In fact, in his maiden speech in our parliament, be a premise on dignity, integrity, unity. So some of them things are only for Siam. People are not for fear for go work in a public office. Me know people are now we elect whose government can. They will not work in public office. They get the ideas. They prevent you best your brains not for working in a public office because of partisan biases, because of tribal and regional considerations. So for me, I think on the fight against corruption, we are doing well, but we need to do more, especially when it comes to the government for watching itself, the anti-corruption for commissioner, Francis Ben Kefala. I don't get the accolades. Yeah, we happy for our congratulation, but in need for do more, in need for stop for the defend government or public official in this regime where they raise issues of corruption against. A need for be proactive. When the issues of corruption come, we don't see a lot. You talk about the Africanist press, we don't see a lot of things about our public. Look at how in fight against corruption also in the SLPP manifesto, the state say then go strengthen the audit service commission for implement audit recommendation, which we don't see these past days. Now an attack on the audit service, on the auditor general. For me, I think you know good. He might not make some little blunder here and there. Now human being, but I don't think the kind attack, the kind rage of attack where that woman not receive, if I receive them, rather for help them, for build that institution, for be truly independent, and for highlight issues. Area the outside government don't miss money, areas the outside misprocurement so happen. And let the anti-corruption truly investigate them and bring people into book.
Okay, Thomas Dixon continue for the way to inside the program. And inside the program, Good Morning Salon today, we look at the 3 years of this present administration and we focus on good governance, corruption, and education. And this particular time, we on corruption now as we assess the change and improvement where this particular administration don't make in terms of fighting corruption. And now we come over to Imran. Okay, before come back to you, we quickly go for a break, and after that, we'll bring you in.
Yes, subscribe. You always the watch we program them, but you not subscribe yet to the channel. All wait till you get for do, press this red subscribe button, and then you come over here and press this bell. To the bell option, press this one with all. And done. And no get for cost you anything. When you do this, na sign for show say you dey support we for make we do more. Thank you for what you don help we for share this program. Yeah, God bless you.
Alright, we continue with the program. Good morning, Salon, where they come to you from the Society for Radio Democracy 98.1 FM. We'll continue for look at President Bill in 3 years in office. Today they look at corruption, good governance, and education. We don't talk about good governance, and we'll start for look at corruption. Now we can out to Imran Sila from the Strategic Communications Unit. Now from the Ministry of Information and Communication. Mr. Sila, we don't start for talk about issues them we get for do with corruption, and self-remind listeners them of waiting the president will make na a manifesto say it will come fight corruption, and he back that promise day with a statement where he say it declare war on corruption. 3 years along the line, so many allegations them of corruption don't they come out from the president in office, the office of the first lady, except top senior government official them under President Bill regime. And according to waiting Mr. Dixon talk, the person waiting up before for fight corruption, before he fight corruption, they come out and defend people where corruption allegation they upon where they serve na this administration.
You know, people can choose to be selective if they want to, and that's okay, right? It's entirely their right, right? But you can be as selective as you want for being. It still not take away the fact, say, the fight against corruption, not something we don't make progress on in this country. Yeah, we have seen report after report after report, and it is for a reason that we don't pass MCC's scorecard, particularly on the fight against corruption, for 2 successive years. It not ever happened since MCC began doing work. Not so? So that is something to celebrate. I'm not to deny the fact, say, we still have much more way to go in the fight against corruption. Absolutely. Right? And that's the direction we want to go. And that's the aspiration, I believe, of Francis Benkefala, and most definitely of His Excellency the President in the fight against corruption. We still have a long way to go. There's so many things we need for doing the fight against corruption, and that's a commitment with President Dome. But on a few issues on the fight against corruption, one, I noticed Thomas, they talk about Benkefala, they sort of defend people there now, and he raised the issue of the First Lady. You know, context, then say not everything, and it is very important. Thomas raised the issue of the First Lady. I will reference the issue of Alhaji Usman Fode Yansane, right? Sierra Leone's former ambassador to Ghana, who sat in Freetown years on ending, collecting salaries, the clock at his tongue, and ACC had to investigate. No, I'm calm. Context. No. But that is what I'm doing. That is what I am doing.
The conversation.
Dija,
on the current allegations.
I'm talking about context, Dija. I sure so you understand that one day.
I beg, somebody.
Just allow me. No, but the
reason for Kaya back and get space for retract. So Lord just center. No.
It's based on the law.
No,
Dija. It's not a good on that part. I have to apologize. It's not a good on that part. Allow me for end. Allow me for end because it is about context. Now it is on record. It is on record the Anti-Corruption Commission. It is about the conclusions drawn by the Anti-Corruption Commission. No, we dey talk about conclusions in the Anti-Corruption Commission. This are not the tell you which me for tell you. I dey tell you about which ACC investigates ma. Yeah, we then draw conclusions on for which there is the precedent and then records. Then they did it. That is something we have to talk about. Also, it cannot be selective. I disagree.
Good morning, Salon.
This is not the problem I can get. I want me to be selective and I choose not to.
Come back to you. The program Good Morning Salon, they continue, and now we continue to studio guest them as today inside the program, where they look at this present administration in governance as they don't take 3 years, and we focus on good governance, corruption, and education. And this particular time, we did on corruption, and we bring in Imran Silla, we come out in the strategic communication unit at the Ministry of Information and Communication. From we other guest them, the issue about corruption been a one now way this present administration they do. Some of them say now on they defend corruption rather than fighting corruption, and also the issue about the corruption them we case them on they take get for the former former administration workman them where that they show say the issue about corruption not to one way they in all level. From waiting you don't listen, waiting and see. What do you think about this in terms of owner this administration in governance on addressing corruption?
Well, as I say earlier at the start, now the fact that, look, we can critique as much as we want for in terms of this government efforts on the fight against corruption. But I think, nobody not going to take away the fact that we have made some efforts and we don't make progress. And that is why you see report after report, both international and local, from reputable institutions, they commend. But then also, Mohammed Rahman, the Minister of Information, can always say, it's a waiting at the reward for hard work. It's not more work, naturally. Yeah. And so we understand, there's more work that needs to be done in the fight against corruption. I've been to make an earlier point, and I'll go let for finish that point, please, if I may. Yeah. Then in connection to it in Dixon talkbots, right, about the Office of the First Lady and why for go back. And I've been to reference a report where the ACC been do on Alhaji Usman Fode Yansane. Now, in the conclusions where they investigate Usman Fode Yansane, they acknowledge, first of all, they had to go back in time for investigate other ambassadors. They're not necessarily in Ghana, but other parts of the world where they serve the state, as to whether there were systems and a policy in place. So in Anti-Corruption Commission and conclusion, they said, yes, they acknowledge, those monies, right, were collected by Ambassador Usman Fode Yansane, whilst within this jurisdiction and not to impose to Ghana. But they cannot ask him to pay back because there was no policy, right, that they could rely on. There was no system, there was no structure in place for ambassadors serving outside this country. The point why they make is this, and then to Dixon in question you raised earlier. When you investigate the Office of the First Lady, first of all, it's a novelty. Now, the very first time you see an Anti-Corruption Commission, they attempt to investigate an Office of the First Lady. But then, since President's not there, as in the case of Usman Fode Yansane, they had to go back in time. And so you also get to go back in time for understand, first of all, how offices of the First Lady be done, they operate, how them be done, they receive monies. Clearly, them be done, they receive money. Sylvia Blyden allude to that in several of posts that we make public on social media. Right? So all of them things, then you get forget an understanding as to the now, right? And what should be done. Now that make part of ACC them powers is also to ask for systemic reforms and structural changes. Yeah, it is within their mandate as an act, right? In the anti-corruption, the newly created anti-corruption act, and that is I make it find out in some of the instances. Then that is what they can also suggest in some of the instances. So look, I not think anti-corruption commission they protect anybody, but rather I think then they do their job as provided for by the act. It is also, quite clear that other people can get their interpretations as to which they want anti-corruption commission for they do, and that's not happening, unfortunately.
That bring you now to the current corruption allegation. Then we don't see publications of bank transfer and certain transaction where they come out from top government official the Office of the First Lady and even the Office of the President, where the transaction is shows a huge couple and they missing at some certain sector them. And this same president now we see side come and declare war on corruption. With all the evidences then they way they out there to the public. And with waiting the president been say he want for fight corruption. How you can connect the two with the pronunciation way it be make and with the actions them in fighting corruption.
First of all, are two distinct things then. Yeah. When they talk about African Express and then publications them, then SSF not able to verify and ascertain which they get. So they were given information and they upload them. And not by any
But
stretch
then
of
they
the
back
imagination.
them publication them with documentation.
Oh,
when are
absolutely.
evidence.
So when you provide the documentation, this suggests, say, David Moyne in Asenge collect $5,000 for per diem. You now get to ask anybody who will get a bit of common sense, could get for asking self the question now. That $5,000 will take, which actually not the get for per diem, because David Senga not the fixing per diem for himself. Yeah, those are statutory things created by the civil service. Yeah, for ministers and all other categories where they travel. How much days David Senga go for where amount to that $5,000? Was it for the exact amount of this? And second, you also now go for establish whether David Senga collect this $5,000 and sit down and return and not travel. That is what points to corruption. But for beginning to create some kind of a sensational story for post and say, 10 people collect $20,000 per diem, doesn't suggest anything. It doesn't suggest corruption at all.
Issue of blocking
now sensationality, no more people they try for
issues of blocking leakages. Now, one way the president, we been just take up office, he come out and talk tough on say, they block all the leakages. He even make pronouncements. They money then the way they get it. They put them into the education sector for help improve on the free education.
Absolutely.
With all them publication there of alleged corruption, you know, things say instead of blocking the leakages, now opening more leakages and they prayed for corruption for happen?
Well, first of all, not going to even agree 100% about alleged corruption. I will talk about sensational headlines there in between. I just don't talk about per diem, so then published for David Senge, where in the China, we not able to establish.
Publication they come with evidence of bank transaction.
But does not suggest corruption, except if you want to say you get a legal mind, DJ. You're not a lawyer by any means.
You don't need for
you don't confirm whether na corruption. If somebody collect $10,000 for per diem, does it mean corruption?
No.
So no. So leave a window for escape, because you cannot conclude. You do not know if it is corruption. Receiving monies for per diem not suggest corruption. That is what I'm saying to you now. Office of the President, Office of the Chief Minister gets so many subsets to RAM. Now, State House. I hope you understand. And so, in terms of which you supposed to receive for operational cost in itself, right? They're going to millions. That's just the reality. When President they travel, days before President travel, you have an advance team. When President they travel, the team where they go. All of them they run into millions.
So about per diem and other issues.
From
which you don't explain so about per diem and other issues. Is it that you make it more clear for say this present administration they rather defend corruption instead of fighting it, because they explain the reason why per diem it's their right and everything.
I'm simply.
So this is a conclusion.
Done.
So this is not a conclusion you make for say, una they defend corruption rather than fighting it, because it explain the issue about per diem, now the right of government officials to get access to them.
Sub to you, I don't know how you go conclude for me.
No, now you are the ask the question.
Well, then not conclude for me. Ask.
So now is it that you add to waiting the decision say,
I'm
not to fight corruption again?
I simply they point out the sensationality. Yeah, in some of the headlines there where you talk about per diems. I receive 300,000 euros as per diem for go upline. Yeah, everyone panel guest house they upline from Bo to Kenema to McKinney is about 300,000. So literally that per diem now don't sleep. The one for itself.
I don't know if I want to go back.
That's just public
and
disclosure.
Lead the new direction manifesto.
Right.
We talk about
but here's the point. Law get to more
things that they get now this conversation. And some of the things then this way they inside that manifesto they where during the campaign time now promises them where the president be make blocking leakages.
We cannot be judged, right, by Africanist president sensationality and ladida to some point where then deeper.
Okay.
You cannot judge this government by that. Let us be judged by meaningful and serious efforts them, right, where we don't make in the fight against corruption, for which we have been commended, right, both by the United States Ambassador Obindia Mayabria and I sit down and commend and also profile for the future as to which is supposed to happen, right, and that is what I think is supposed to be the threshold, not to
continue for day with Imran Silla. The program Good Morning Salon they continue and we bring in Marcela Samba Sise. Madam Sise, from which you don't from the different issues we don't come up. Now we on corruption as one of the issues that we look at today. You think, say, the post will get here from government, we don't need to talk about how they address corruption. You think, say, they don't need to do it in the rightful way for make people and feel, say, and not relate to anything to get for do with religion or outside person day, or rather maybe they did defend corruption instead of fighting it?
In fact, one wise speaker been talk say the best place for starts at the beginning. Even the recruitment, the reason we make some of we been the talk about the appointment of the Anti-Corruption Commission and for delegates day. Because the reason why make people them where they run independent institution for feel confident say then go through due process now for let them able for stand the test of time as independent entities. Independent entities of the state for able for serve irrespective of who that in our office and who that appoint them. And so if we fail for do that, if then fail for things say then get security of tenure, what we'll be doing now what we call regime serving institutions. Then things say my allegiance are owing to that person we appointing. And unfortunately, whilst a number of things they don't happen, we're very positive with the Anti-Corruption Commission. We don't say cut back in the gains where they don't they make. Now the process don't move 3 years on. It's actually a midterm in the midpoint. Now you don't look behind again. Already you don't look behind, don't pass. Now you have to look inwards. And looking inwards don't create a lot of challenge until the Auditor General report come out and also the Africanist press the leaks. The Anti-Corruption Commission was rated very high and doing fabulously. Although they may not get an earlier snippet on defense of the alleged issue around the chief minister, but they were still rated highly. But you see, when that particular report come out, we see say the tolerance for accountability goes zero, very very low. And I think Dixie mentioned that point. They very clearly say the unwarranted attack on the audit service and the Auditor General was uncalled for. And I think say a society we're premising self, a regime we're premising self on the fight against corruption and equally instituting tenets of accountability is not being good at all.
Strengthening state institutions, now one way stand out na the New Direction Manifesto, and them being specifically draw highlights on the audit service salon for give all the supports for promote transparency. 3 years down the line, strengthening state institution where the president talk about a New Direction Manifesto. It actually don't happen.
In fact, the institutions that the GTT report celebrate was the office of the Auditor General. I mean, the GTT celebrates that office there as one of the primordial institutions there where they push transparency and accountability. But unfortunately, we don't see that kind of support in terms of making sure that office is strong and protected at some point.
Okay.
Some of the institutions, if you call on parliament, say, how come now they left accountability institution for less citizens? Groups them, anti-rights groups them, they attack that woman that kind of way they. And I think say the society for move towards that direction indeed.
Right.
You see, the good thing about this discussion, I've been already the foundation. The intro I read from the New Direction Manifesto. And the promises where is excellence in me. Okay. So each of them here, so now within them perspective they are so we they talk up. Probably time they catch me. And one thing I want to talk very quickly. I want to talk about the wage bill.
When they come to Dandy, Madam Sambasisi, let's just bring Thomas Dixon, as we've been telling Fambole earlier on. So they look at 3 major sectors today: good governance, corruption, and education. I think we don't try for do justice to good governance and corruption. Now, we take education. As Salon people go remember say education and one pan president bio in flagship program them, especially na the free quality education way it be declared for picking them, for encouraging them for go back school and comrade them for send them picking in a school. The media na one way don't they monitor the implementation of the free quality education. 3 years along the line where these governments don't they implement the free quality education. So many things them be there where presidents be been promised school picking them inside the New Direction Manifesto, where you look at the area we get for those free quality education, not only for sending a school, the free quality education count different packages, supply of books, uniform, even shoes. It is inside the New Direction Manifesto. As a media practitioner, we don't they monitor the implementation, how you can assess this flagship program of His Excellency.
Thank you very much. I think first of all, one good thing about the free quality education or the fact that 21% of the budget they go towards the free quality education. And when you look at, and not just one for you myself to free quality education, I want to look at education as a whole. But in particular to the free quality education, there has been some strides where governments genuinely don't make with regards, and that's not increase enrollment into the school. But some of the promises that the president make, some of them 3 years down the line, they not implement it. One promise we make na the manifesto, he say remove the double shift system within 3 years by constructing additional classroom and schools in populated communities to reduce overcrowding in school. That in page 38 of the New Direction Manifesto. Up till now, we get a double shift system, our school STEM. We've not seen the construction of new buildings, new classroom across Sierra Leone. And the president also talked about establishing functional district libraries equipped with computers and promote mobile library services. We are yet to see functional district libraries equipped with computers. He also talked about establishing high schools of excellence for science and technology education in all regions. We are yet to see that. In fact, if we want to grow as a nation, one area we for focus on na science and technology. All countries we don't improve now don't focus on science and technology and don't make them don't improve. But go to tech voc and higher education, where the president also make promises about. For tech voc, the president said the New Direction believe that training is the foundation for enhancing the country's competitiveness. They say the president said they establish technical and vocational training centers in all chiefdom that will provide training in areas relevant for the rural sector, such as hand pump repairs, bicycle, motorcycle and vehicle repairs, fabrication and maintenance of agricultural tools and equipment. We are yet to see the establishment of tech voc centers in all chiefdoms across the country. About higher education, the president may say that the manifesto, he say they review all statutes relating to the higher education. He say they establish a university system where go employ in your leadership. He say no one forbid the chancellor of the university. And he also stressed that at the made an address. He said in 2019, he even give date. He said in 2019, he will no longer be chancellor of the university. Now that means the University of Sierra Leone, Jala University, no go be chancellor. People with proven academic competence will be chancellors of their university. I think say that a promise for all the presidents to watch for all them. And another thing where the New Direction talk about na civic education. We are yet to see. We have a civic education secretariat, but we are yet to see what they are doing. We are yet to see even the simply developing the civic education curriculum for this country. We're not able to see them up till now. So the need for do more with regards to the areas they are don't mention.
So with the area there we don't highlight where waiting then at the New Direction Manifesto where you talk about the education where the president's not able to do it. Now 3 years don't go, he left 2 years. The remaining 2 years based on then things then they and how it been lay emphasis on the New Direction Manifesto. You think say some of the remaining one them achievable?
Like for me, I think some are achievable, but the things that we get to do with construction of schools across the country, I think within 2 years it will be difficult. You go able to do some school, but you not go able to do all the schools across the country. I want to say now, if you go to schools, then they are overcrowded. The good thing about the free education, I refuse for say free quality education.
Why? So why?
Because of I don't see quality yet.
So wait till you discuss.
We don't see quantity, the number of kicking and the number of enrollments so increase. For that quality, there you need to forget the basic infrastructures. Like what the president is saying in manifesto. Get libraries, get schools of excellence where they do it with science and technology. We used to have one of the best science school, Prince of Wales, and one of the best science school in the country. Go to the science lab today, basic things and not get them. And they run on a double shift. They get space for construct schools. Go to the school where we go, Albert Academy. There are spaces for construct schools, school building. But the classroom they're not there. In fact, na long bench in the class. You get over 80 picking to one teacher. So for me, I think we get for the quality aspect. We get for looking to about books, supply of books. Yes, government they supply textbooks. Government they supply exercise books. For the exercise book, na school you go use them. The textbook you go carry on house for the core subject. I think
so now
it is important.
Make you say quality.
For me, I think say with regards to the infrastructure, quality because if quality there, we go able to sit down there in public exams. We go for sit down day where we picking and you go sit MPSC, WAS, and Beke. Although person go say it's also left with the parents and other people, but I think a very important for let we know say the quality aspect of the free education this government get for enhance.
Really different in the way they emphasize on the issue about the education system in the country. That'll be one key thing where the president used during in campaign and all. You think say there is more time where they need for make the improve and meet to them promise apart from the second years more where they get?
Well, for get more time, I think that get for do with the people of Sierra Leone for decide whether they go give the president more time.
But for me, assessment where you don't need to, you think say if they get the chance for continue, I mean, that will be achievable?
Yeah, I think these are achievable things. These are things that any government, particularly the amount of money where this government they pour, and the donor support, we get World Bank's huge World Bank support. Now the free education, I think say some of them things are achievable.
All right, we continue with the program. Good morning, Salon. We look at the education sector now, as we've been seeing at 3 sectors they look at today. Lord bring in Marcella Sabasisi. You self don't in the country. You don't observe the implementation of the free quality education. According to statistics where the Chief Minister Bingi in the area of enrollment, he say over 2 million picking them don't enroll at school because of the free quality education where government be introduced as soon as they take up governance. The implementation of one, according to Dixon, is still get challenges. All waiting there inside the new direction manifesto as to strengthen the education sector not upon it. And according to the quality part of the waiting at your assessment.
In fact, not for run the risk of repeating some of the things the way you don't say. I want to connect this whole issue of the wage bill to democratic dividends like something like access to education, free quality education, as the manifesto don't say. Unfortunately, we can't find out the government in current expenditure. It is more than half, for pay salary. The real money where this country they generates. I mean, I'm trying to use the basic of terms. The real money where this country they generate for country issues of citizens' well-being. The money they left for them. And that is, 21% of the government budget is huge, yes. But when we want for institute quality, a number of things they want therefore happen. And equally so the implementation of the policy. At the policy level, you take away the payment of fees, but we introduce payment of school accessories. When you think about the money where, especially where they enter secondary school, the money where then they pay for buying uniform, buy the school attire, buying tie, all them things in there is very costly. So you take that one day away, but you introduce another dimension. And equally so, the unethical standards that will happen within the educational sector. So attention need for be paid critically on quality. And I think by this time, mass education, yes, access is good, but quality is a very big challenge. And I think the government for begin think as to how they get for begin use phases, for begin deliver that one day in phases. Because it make no sense you get a bulk of people then go through basic and tertiary education, then come out and then not come out with the substance we necessary for building the country. Because 21% of the budget is a very huge amount of money, and we need for pay attention so that we streamline them for get the required quality where we need. Government also go for pay attention to this influx of people into the governance space for do waiting. Government going for cut down on the number of people where they serve in a public office. Not to governments that the only employer in a country. Then therefore try as best as possible for diversify so that we could benefit from what we call the democratic dividend. The social contract is such that when we give a vote, we want for see something come back in return. But if in return you get for employer all you support them, we not get space for do the things them where go benefit the ordinary citizen. And right now, a number of people then gladly for the free education, but a number of people also call for quality education.
Okay, continuing for the with Marcella Sabasisi inside the program Good Morning Salon today. We look at the 3 years of the President Bio regime, and we focus on good governance, corruption, and education. And this particular time, we're there now on education as we assess the change and improvement we don't take place for these 3 years. Now we bring in Imran Silla, where come out of the strategic communication unit. 3 years in governance. What do you think say don't improve or we wanna don't do in terms of the education? We wanna see that be one things that way the president be used for campaign. You think so that don't do the expected change and improvement we wanna be talk about?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, a lot of progress done be made in a period of 3 years. And I think so we need for talk in terms of data and statistics now, yeah? Where we talk about free quality education. And go back to before 2018 as to which in the data and the statistics been inform this nation in terms of access to primary school education, access to primary school for girls, right? Which have been the retention levels from primary school to secondary school, right? And within have been the completion rates, yeah, for picking away the start of a primary school for make sure students see them back and what's scared. There are several challenges, yeah, where they make them percentages and they're very low. One was the fact that parents are not getting money for pay school fee for them beginning right across the country, right? Now rural parts of them, now this country plenty. Second was the fact that not all mom will go take exam because if even they get access to primary school by 10 they secondary school and able for pay now secondary school, let alone even for pay for the public exams, then for take back and what's good. And so the free quality education changed that dynamics there. That's not the thing that will be inform the free quality education. Yeah, it changed that dynamics there. So we see percentages then go up about 80% right across the country in terms of access to primary school education. We also see retention levels, yeah, from primary to secondary go up significantly. We talk about 2.14, not than the 21% of the budgets, yeah, they support. We also see completion rates go up. We see the number of picking away the access public exams, then both MPSC, Beke, and Waske, they go up. Now that's huge, and that is something I think the world for commend government for, because I think say if we talk about investment, right, in the next generation of this country, I think it's about the right investment. Now, we keep talking about quality, right, as if to say that something we're not progressive, yeah. Everybody will get, well, for me on common sense, when we get on my head, the 5 word work with, yeah, I understand that quality is progressive. So what has progressed in over 3 years when you talk about quality education? We talk about teacher salaries. From 2018 to 2020, about 35-40% increase. Yeah. We also talk about the development of professional standards for teachers, codes of ethics for teachers, right? And you get a professional pathway for them. We talk about recruitment of teachers. TSC now, they develop some of them, their standards, and therefore make sure that teachers actually begin to get identity cards, right, where they identify you as being part of the profession. So meaning, if you not live up to their standards and then something happen, right, there are ethical concerns. Once you lost the opportunity again, you don't have the opportunity again for teach.
Imran,
so those are all things you implement.
You say progress there in the implementation of the free quality education.
Yeah.
But if you look at the progress level,
yeah,
you look at the area of additional classrooms.
Absolutely.
Where the president will make pronouncements of make picking and get conducive environment for staying at school in as much as they enroll them.
Yeah.
That particular area of infrastructure, now one way lacking. And infrastructure, now major aspect in the implementation of the free quality education. If the infrastructure lacking, how you go say progress there in the implementation?
Well, you did talk more specifically to structures, and even at the end there, and I think say you get the exact figures, Khadija. Yeah, that'll be exact. 90% of the schools that across this country, Khadija, if you know the facts well, they already do on one shift system, number one. Second, it means that also because 90% of the classrooms there across this country and schools that across this country do on one shift system, it means they have the available structures for contain. Not forget it. One of the things them, when
how often you can go around and look at schools them where they under the free quality education. Look at the environment where they picking in the SIDOM for land book. How often you can go down for doing inspections?
Are they going through this country on a monthly basis, at least at the upline 3 term, right?
You dey go
I just don't
offline
come out.
and
I
you
just,
dey- and
I
you
just
dey
don't.
look
I know
at
they
the
talk about.
school
I know they talk
system.
about urban. I know they talk about urban areas. I they talk about
You dey
rural
go,
parts
say
of
you
this
dey go
country.
offline and you dey look at the school system. You proud of how the school system they run, how picking
And
and in a school,
And not to
in
say.
terms of furnitures, in terms of school buildings.
Let us come back to which I've been trying to say. Yeah?
No, we dey talk about the same infrastructure. What I
Yeah,
asked you
and so
about.
are they fitting me observation now into the question? Yeah, and then they try to do, if you allow me. Look, 90% of the classrooms there, schools there across this country already they operate on a one-shift system. Facts. Yeah, we understand. Say the
How you
10%.
reach to that statistics of 90%?
Go statistics alone, not how me reach to RAM. No, you go statistics alone. DJ, I'm not there for inform you. I'm not there for inform you. Go statistics alone. Well, you're not a journalist, so I'm supposed to be able to get the information in it.
But if you talk
But-
on
but-
How you
fact,
reach at
Imran,
that conclusion? Because
Go
from
statistics
wetin me
alone, or you go to
know,
Ministry of
not
Education,
all
you do
the
buy.
schools, they don't
Then
go
you do
into
down
one
there.
school shift system.
But that is
when
what
I
I'm
still a
saying.
challenge.
That is what I'm saying.
But 90%,
I'm not deny what you
that's
say.
huge. Let me ask you, who said you
That
get
that
your
was the data that
statistics?
was there since 2019. Go na Ministry of Education, let you go get and day. The point why they make is
as much
this.
as you there for talk
Eh,
for
God.
government, we also get a responsibility
Oh,
for
dear.
they don't mislead the public.
You say get a responsibility for go get the information. I'm making a journalist, not
But
only
that
one.
90%
So for the
they
talk
talk
based on
say,
facts.
The
You
90%
get a contrary percentage? Do you have you get
shift system
you,
I want for challenge that?
you which is your own percentage now?
I they ask you
No,
now,
not
Usa,
ask me.
you
Me they
put
tell you.
this
You,
Okay,
you put your own,
Imran.
and then let's talk about time.
It go
Not
fine
ask.
if
You said
able
you
for
said a
answer the
journalist.
questions and let people
But that is why you're a
understand. But
journalist.
we not for come and
It
mislead
has
the
to
public.
be from an informed position. You send a journalist, go find the actual percentage and can challenge me on the percentage. Say, no, I'm not good at percentage. Now, this is not my own percentage. That is what makes you a journalist. The same access to information will to get them, irregardless.
So in terms of the quality we emphasize on, quality talk about degree of excellence of something. You think say that's reflective on the education system we want to implement?
Look, I mean, as I've been to say, I mean, until I got distracted. In terms of quality, it is something that is progressive, yeah? And I think, say, we have seen a lot of efforts, right, by the Ministry of Education, right, on school furniture, making sure that there are new structures across the country, right, so that they're able for, students, them and make sure so they get the available space. We have seen a lot of recruitment of teachers, right, particularly for rural parts them, because one of the challenges them in the early parts of this administration have been the fact that the rural parts them, we get government schools and government-assisted schools. Not they all be actually get qualified teachers. Yes, they may get some semblance of teaching they go on, but it wasn't necessarily, qualified teachers. So, as part of the recruitment process, I've been for specifically make sure say that rural parts then they, actually get qualified, training qualified teachers the way they teach. Now, and this is the thing I think so we get for note, right? Now, the fact that quality is something we're progressive. And which we don't do is also about, in as much as now for make sure, say, you get the right amount of teachers and have those, short-term fixes. You also get to look at the medium to long term, yeah, in terms of providing more classrooms, right, making sure that there are more teachers, making sure that we get the right kind of atmosphere with the wash system, sanitary conditions and all that, and the right across the country. So it is a monumental task, and that is why government rightly commit 21% of in budget to free quality education.
But the 21%
so it is going
is
to
not
be
the
progressive.
show as how people expect them for be added to that. We also get donor parts of them. We also they support government.
Oh, absolutely. Don't. International partners, they support plenty of things. So it's not only on education, it's also on healthcare. It's
No,
also
we
on
there
agriculture.
particularly
No,
on
I
the
just to say,
issues,
so
yes.
it's not restricted to just education. Yeah. If you say in not the show, I wonder what's in your own barometer if you
We
get.
get people or we get videos where they go on a certain village where picking and they not get benches and other things like that. And some of them here they talk about we all in this country with the see and hear.
It has.
So it not mean say what you they talk na fact waiting people and they point out to they you know to reality.
It has to be. If you see, posts on social media, they raise concerns with regards to which you did talk about. So, on some schools on side or some things on side within not their own concerns. Point to the fact that, there are challenges, but it doesn't take away within, the data and the statistics they show, and I think Senator is supposed to inform some of the discussion they are, yeah? Data and statistics in terms of, within the number of intake in schools, within the retention level, within the completion rate, how many picking and they take exams, and all of them things in there, 35-40%, salary increase that they have, that is something we, government happy about, but then also we look at other ways and means then for make sure so we continue for incentivize teachers them for able for deliver the quality.
The program now because of time. Other aspects them left by the free quality education, especially the area of going to one school shift system, additional classroom and furniture, and self-supply picking them, some of the things them where the president been promised them, uniform, shoes and other one them. When salon people go see, then they happen.
Yep, I think that's progressive, again, right? I'm not going to give any specific date now, but the fact of the matter now that we have provided so much, right? And also include, core textbook them, where they go around the country, right? In addition to, paying of school fees for teacher them, for school picking them. Interestingly enough, we'll go carrying a district about 2 weeks back. One of the things I would thank His Excellency the President for, right across carrying a district, now the introduction of free quality education, and that they appreciate the fact that they do not have to pay. This was coming from parents them. They do not have to pay for them picking them for go school now.
All right, thank you very much, Imran Sila. He come out from the Strategic Communications Unit and Minister of Information and Communication. And also we get Marcela Samba-Sise, Executive Director for Campaign for Good Governance. Thomas Dixon, a journalist. As today at the program, we start for assess President Bio in 3 years in governance. We take 3 major sectors there, winner good governance, corruption, and education. Well, the democracy, they continue for bring you the series there as we look at President Bio in 3 years in office and try for turn down to a manifesto promises them. Bring people who go analyze and see if the president don't do some of the things them way he been promised in manifesto. Now they end the program. Michael Sambola and Alex Lawrence Kuman had them produced the program. DJ Ahmad give you technical support. Moses Kavura and Usman Kamara na they make una watch we live now Facebook page. Mena Khadija Bangura they say have a nice day.
And Sapti Kalon they say bye bye.